Hey all, Andy here, helping you build a career you love. Today I got a great one for you on resume writing, although it's much more than that. We're gonna go right into the interviews too. So, hope you're here with me live. If not, and watching on the recording, welcome to you too. If you are here with me live, get in the chat, say hi, tell me where you're from, what you do, what you need, put some question marks in front of your questions, because when we're done, I'm gonna answer a bunch of your questions. It's great to see everybody. Happy December. Or whenever you're watching this, or whenever we're re-releasing this, I'm all in the holiday spirit, and today is really about giving. I've got a great pack for you. It's really full. We're going to talk about resume highlights, and I'll explain what those are, but basically you want to draw employers' attention to specific achievements that you've accomplished. And I want to talk to you about where they go on the resume, why it's important to put them there. Also, which ones of your mega accomplishments you should be pulling forward, because a lot of people make mistakes in choosing these, and it really matters, because not only will it help based on the ones you select entice an employer to actually look at your resume, give you a job interview, but also it sets the table in the job interview to entice the employer again to ask you specifically, how did you do that? How did you accomplish that? And those are the kind of questions you want, because number one, if an employer is asking you, how did you do that? You know they're interested in that project. It's probably going to give you the greatest chance for you to strut your value, which is what you want to be able to do. You know the story, you know they're interested because they asked you about it. So I want to talk about that. And then what I also want to do is I want to show you how to take those resume highlights and bring them to life in the interview storytelling. And as a matter of fact, last week, so if you're here with me live, this was just last week when it was Thanksgiving time, where I was building my interview intervention training program. It was highly interactive, and we were doing some role playing. I actually plucked one of the cases out. I'm going to show you that today. I'm going to walk you through it, and I'm going to interrupt the case study as we go through it, so that I could work with you on how to think about your resume bullet, your highlight bullet, your story that you're going to tell, the applicability of it. So in that respect, one thing I'd like you to do right now is, if you've written your resume, maybe you have it handy, or at least think about one of the major accomplishments that you've had throughout your career that you want to put on your resume. If you haven't written your resume yet, don't worry about it. I still want you to keep in mind, what's the one bullet project, whatever you want to call it, that you want to think through today with me as I walk you through how to kind of diagnose things, how to look at it, how to figure out how you would use it in an interview, and also with the case study, how you actually would bring that bullet to life. So it's really going to be a lot of fun. I'd love to say a quick hello to who's here. Did you know notice my mother is first online? Love you, Mom. Claus, how are you? Adam Stark, Terry, what's up? Dave Colburn, TW, great looking picture there for you. RS Zeben, Word Dog Toronto, Bianca, how you doing from Germany? Artie, moving forward, Frank, Kurt, and everybody else. I'm stoked today. Let's get rolling. All right, just so everybody understands what I mean by resume highlights. If you go to the Andy School of Resume Writing, but even if you don't, generally speaking, it's good practice to have a summary up at the top of you. It helps you control the narrative and the story an employer has about you, how you want them to think about you, how you want them to recognize what you've done in aggregate. I call it a career profile. Some people call it a career summary. I don't care what you call it. That's first. Next thing is, my ideal situation are three major accomplishments. People like things in threes and fives, but three in this case, of mega achievements, specific activity events, accomplishments. So not roll-ups, but an actual specific project or something that you did that had a major benefit or impact. Three of those. And that's the second thing on the resume. And then you go into the professional experience. I have lots of resume videos on my YouTube channel, which you can check out if you want to see the layout. But that's what we're talking about. I'm comfortable that a lot of you know what that is. And so that's what we're speaking about. So how do you choose the right ones? And the first thing that I would say is you know, I often say this. You all know how I feel about the resume. Your resume It gets you a job. It gets you a job interview, right? It entices somebody to talk to you. It's a marketing vehicle to get you to where you want to go. It is not a work history document, which is what many people consider it. And it's evidenced by the fact that people want to list out every little activity that they've ever done. This is about how you advertise yourself. You're selling yourself. So if that's the case, why would you just blindly choose major accomplishments without having some forethought as to how they apply to the employers going forward? It's a big, big mistake. And let me give you an extreme example from my life, which is really analogous to what I see a lot of people doing in their resume as it relates to their career. I have done a lot of things in my day. I've been working for 34 years. And one of the most significant and impactful accomplishments that I ever did in my entire life, this will go down till the day I die, is I built this estimating model, which was much more than that, but it was an entire integrated methodology related to sales and delivery of information technology projects. It changed the landscape of the way my company did business. It made us hundreds of millions and put hundreds of millions in pockets of people because we were able to do something so quickly, so accurately, efficiently, on time, on budget, and all of the other things that go along with running a business effectively, that it was a mega accomplishment. And if I was writing a life resume of everything I've done in my career, that would be one of the golden achievements that I've made. Definitely one of the top 5. But if I put that on my resume, would that entice you to hire me as a career coach? Probably not. Because what does that have anything to do with me helping you find a great job or growing in it? And while that may be extreme because I also changed careers throughout my life, that's what a lot of you do when it comes to filling out your resume, is you attach emotion to projects that you worked on and things you are the most proud of, except that the employer doesn't have any of that emotion. The employer doesn't care about any of that stuff. The employer cares about, how are you going to solve my problem? And what a lot of people do is they completely ignore who they're pitching their resume to. They want to talk about me, but you have to talk about me in the context of them. So the first thing that I want you to think about is when you're choosing your highlights, I want you to think about choosing highlights that mean something to them. If I want to entice you, what would I do? I would show you how I helped somebody develop their career. I would show you how I helped somebody find a great job, or the results they attained, or how much happier they are, how much better their life is, how much more money they're making, those kinds of things. And the next, to take this down one notch before we start getting really prescriptive, is I also want you to think not only in terms of them, but I want you to show how you solved something they need to solve, right? If I've already solved the job searching problem, you're going to have more faith in hiring me, or more faith in my techniques or methodologies and results if I continue to show you evidence, or I continue to illustrate my highlights of how I've done that. Same thing goes for you. How have you solved their problem? Now, I know some of you are going to say, well, Andy, how do I know what their problem is, right? How is it that I need to know? Well, you do your job every day. And let me give you another extreme story about solving problems. I had to think about, when I was going to grow my business, what is it that I want to bring to this world? And going back to thinking about you, thinking about them, and how I can add value. I don't know if you know this. I know some of you might know this, but some of you probably don't. Job searching is not what I know best. It's not what I know most, and it's not what I've done most, if you can imagine that, right? Leadership concepts, career development, building your career, running businesses, all those other things are much more my forte. You might find that hard to believe, but that's because I didn't present that to you. So in 2015, when I needed to think about my business, I decided that I want to help you, the individual, with something that is an acute pain. It's an acute problem. I don't have a job. I don't have a job I love, or I don't have a career I love, or I'm miserable in my company. I'm not sure what to do. That's very painful. And I decided I could bring forward my expertise in that area, even though it wasn't my strongest area of expertise, because the other stuff was. And I thought from a business model, it was much better for me to focus on helping you with that acute pain first, building a relationship with you, solving your problem, gaining your trust, so that some fraction of you, 20% actually, some fraction of you would continue on with me and work with me for an aspiration that you have that I am wholly equipped to support, which is developing your leadership skills and all the other stuff that goes along with building a great career and leading a great life. And so I want you to imagine the level of patience it takes to build a business not on your primary skill set, but to have the wherewithal and the patience and the grit to wait years to be able to put forward something that I am an absolute ace at. So if I can wait years to bring forward my greatest accomplishments and my greatest skill sets, you can certainly pluck something that is pretty related and something you've accomplished in your career to bring it forward to make the next step in your career. I want you to think about that. I want you to remember that story when you're trying to choose between this highlight and that highlight, and this one matters more than that one, that Andy waited years, more than 4 years, just to put forward his primary skill set. You can do the same. Believe me, it'll work out better the longer term you think. All right, so now, how do we do this? All right, so the first thing is, you know what you do. You do this day in and day out. Most of you are an accountant, an engineer, a marketer, a project manager, a CIO, whatever you are. Here's what I want you to do, and then I'm going to walk you through the steps of how to work this and how to choose it. All right, first thing I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, as a whatever, as an accountant, as an engineer, as a social media copywriter, as a video editor, as a whatever, what are my top 3 goals? And what is it that are the goals of your specific position? And if you're not sure immediately what these goals are, another way of considering this is, how does my employer evaluate me? What am I graded on? What's most important for me to contribute? If you're a marketer, no matter what you do, you're graded on, did you help increase brand awareness? Did you help increase your market your market awareness, or how easily somebody recognizes who you are and what you do? That's what every marketer does. It doesn't matter what position you hold on the marketing team. Now, you might not be on the tip of the sword and the front end right there. You might do something along the way, and I'm going to show you how to trace this back. But I want you to think about how is that? How am I measured? Are y'all tracking with me? Give me a hey in the chat, and let me know that this is so far registering with you. What are my major goals? And I'm going to give you some examples to bring this to life, and we're going to work together on how we pull these out. But what is it that I contribute? What is it that an employer is going to want me to do for them? What is it that my current job, how am I evaluated? Right? Does that make sense? All right, now, here's what I want to do. I want to work this. I'm going to switch over to some slides because I think this will be a little bit easier. I want you to first think in terms of, what do companies care about? So at the highest level, and then let's work down to the lowest level, which is the spot you're in. Companies care about 8 things. They care about 8 things. I call these the Great 8. These are the Great 8 benefits, the Great 8 contributions, and every single one of you does one or more of these 8. So you either generate money, you either improve the brand recognition or the market awareness, you attract customers, you make the customers happier, you either serve them, you position your company for growth, you scale it, you position it for an IPO, a divestiture, an M&A, or whatever, something like that. You improve employee happiness, you reduce cost some way, there are various ways to do that, or you make processes more efficient. Every single one of you does one or more of these, no matter what your job is. This is it. Okay, this is all companies care about. So the first thing I want you to do when you think about your goals and you think about what highlights you want to select is I want you to think about how they fall into one of these 8. If it does not fall into one of these 8, I assure you it's not a highlight at all. It shouldn't even be on your resume. All right, that's the stone cold truth. If you cannot figure out how something you're going to put on anywhere on your resume, let alone the highlights, doesn't align to one of these 8, don't put it on. It's fat. Okay? So, first thing is, where do you fall in the grade 8? A lot of you do many of these. Some of you do one of these, but most of you do a few of these. Okay? That's the first thing. Now, the grade 8, how are these in relation to your specific function? So let's work down the grade 8. So in general, what are my goals or my team goals off the top of my head? So if you're a marketer, right, I got to increase brand awareness. We got to find more leads, right? We have to find better leads kind of thing, right? Okay, so play along with it. Ask yourself these questions, jot some notes, right? Second thing is if you're not entirely sure and you're looking for a crutch to help you identify these, do you have a job description for a role that you're applying for or want to apply for or preferably boss hunt for? Are there specific objectives in the job description? Look for those. Okay, this is another way to get at this. Where it says you will be responsible for growing the sales team, growing the revenue. You will be responsible for accounting for the books or whatever it is. And if you don't have a job description and you're still trying to think about what's most important for the kind of positions you're going for, think about this third bullet. Are there specific objectives I can find in other job descriptions similar to my target position? So perhaps you go on Indeed and you look at, if you're a project manager and you look for a project management position and you're in construction or IT or whatever, right? Look for job descriptions and see what they're calling for. That's going to show you what the goals of the position are. And that's also, you'll also be able to draw the relationship between what you're doing and the great 8 benefits that employers care about. Okay? So this is how you bring it down a notch. All right, with relation to your function. Then what I want you to do is I want you to ask yourself, I want you to take it one step further. Ask yourself, do I do something that's directly related to one of the great 8? So do you sell widgets? Do you create brochures that you're going to be doling out at the event you're managing for your company? Right? Something like that. You're doing something immediately direct to the grade 8. Are you the Six Sigma internal consultant that's working to re-engineer a business process that one of the groups is doing? That's immediately in touch with the grade 8. You are no steps removed. Okay, got it? All right, so do I do the main thing? Okay, maybe I don't do the main thing. Like maybe I don't actually sell. I'm not in the meetings selling to the customer, but do I build something that eventually resulted in one of the great 8? Are you working the proposal and are you the support engineer that's building the pilot that the salesperson or the demonstration team is taking to go to use to sell to the customer? That's a prerequisite step, right? That's something that needs to be done in order to generate the money kind of thing. Okay, you with me? You guys falling asleep? I know it's December and we're heading into holiday season. Come on, let me know you're here. All right, third thing, do I do an ingredient? So have I developed or performed something that someone else uses to achieve one of the great 8 kind of thing? Right? You following me here, right? So what could those ingredients be? Why don't we get into some of these examples? All right, so let's say you're a marketer. This here, the main thing for a marketer, no matter what you do, is to increase brand awareness. The way we know if you're increasing brand awareness is if the number of prospects in the system are rising. You're increasing brand awareness if you are the engineer or web optimizer that improves the social media page, right? So like our numbers increasing. You could be the technologist, right, that takes the web page and keeps the web page the same, but does a whole bunch of SEO stuff, right? Search engine optimization to make it come up at the top of Google instead of on the 5th page of Google. Well, you're increasing brand awareness. That's an immediate result and directly connected to one of the great 8 benefits. Okay. Now, maybe that's not who you are. Maybe you actually changed the web page or created a page where customers could go to put in their information. Well, that's actually capturing a lead, right? That is certainly a prerequisite step to generating revenue and increasing brand awareness, because now what's going to happen is now that we have your email address, we can communicate with you via email, or we could send you things, or we could figure out from a data perspective, where are we getting leads from? We seem to be getting a lot of leads from people in Australia and Canada and the UK and whatever. Okay, let's go target there. Right? So all of this stuff is required in order for you to improve your marketing. Or perhaps you're the copywriter. Maybe you just wrote the copy that someone else took, that put on the opt-in page or put on the website or whatever it might be. Right? You get the idea. So even a person who's 1 year out of school, who's got a journalism or a writing degree or any kind of function that's aimed at contributing a piece of information, copy, ads, whatever it might be, is doing something aimed at increasing brand awareness in this case, even though they're not at the tip of the sword. Okay, is this helping? Because I want to go through another example here, because I want you to be thinking through, and then we're going to go through an accounting example in the case study as well. Here's a customer service example. So here, if you run the customer service team, your number one goal is to increase customer satisfaction. That is one of your number one goals. You probably have 1 A, B, and C, but that is definitely a metric and a goal that we want to track and achieve, right? Another one is, well, did the customer attrition, our turnover, the ones that leave us, did that go down? Because if that's going down, then that is a direct, we can directly infer that customers are happier. They like the product, right? And we're doing something that is helping maintain that relationship, keep them engaged, keep them excited, keep them using our product. And sure, yes, a good product is something that if it's a physical equipment, needs to be engineered effectively. But a lot of times in customer service, you're handling a service of something. So the service is going to contribute to whether customers stay. Or another one, the retention rose. It's another way of looking at this, that we actually are increasing our retention, or we're not, at least not decreasing the attrition. So these are main goals of a customer service manager. What does not go on the resume is managed as a primary bullet, manage the customer service team. I don't care that you manage the customer service team. That's fine. I get that you managed it, but I want to know what happened as a result of you managing the customer service team. This is the difference. What was the effect? Customer sat went up, customer turnover went down, or something like this. Somebody might have built, a technologist or somebody on the customer service team might have built a system that the customer service reps were able to use to access data faster, respond to the calls more efficiently, pull up the customer profile and information and history faster, whatever it might be. So that in and of itself, that technologist that does that is doing an intermediary or a prerequisite step that is required for the customer service to be achieved, right? To actually do a better job serving. Well, you need better tools to do that. Okay, well, somebody's got to build the tool, right? So the technologist who builds a customer service management tool is helping increase customer satisfaction and customer happiness. So that's a prereq step. Or an ingredient could be something like, we developed a reach out program that somebody now has to use to go out and contact customers, mail customers, or hold webcasts or webinars, or provide information, or talk about new features, or something like that. I have tools that I love. Some of these platforms that I use, they have weekly tips and tricks that I get. Sometimes they have live shows once a month, right? That where I can learn. That's a great ingredient to helping improve your customer satisfaction and your customer service. So this is just an example. Now, hopefully you're getting the concept that the reason you want to choose these is because these are the problems that I need you to solve as a customer service manager, as a marketer, as a whatever you are. And so one of the other things you might be wondering is, well, okay, I'm getting an idea of how I would choose the bullets and how I would come up with the best ones to put up top. What goes in the bullet? Now, I don't want to go too far into this, a little out of the scope of what I wanted to discuss today, but I wanted to give you as one of the bonus tips today is, well, what information should go in the bullet? And I'll go so far as to say this is the information that should go in the bullet or any bullet on your resume in this sequence. So you want to think through what happened. What happened? What happened as a result of me doing what I did? What do most of you think? What did I do? Right? There's a difference between managed customer service team, right? That's what a lot of you put on your resume or something of that nature, versus increased customer satisfaction 57%. That's the what happened. I need to know the delta. There was nothing and I created something. There was something and I made it better. Making it better could be I made more of them or I made less of them, right? We reduced waste. So effect, you'll hear me say, cause and effect. The effect goes first. What happened as a result of me doing what I did? Then there's some context that you need to add. Well, how much did it go up? Did it go up 10%? Well, did it go up from $1 million to $1,100,000? Or did it go from $1 to $1.10? Right? What was the difference? And then you want some context if it's not crystal clear. So, increased revenue from 10 million to 20 million. That's fine. Now I understand what it is, what it went to. It's an additional 10 million. You doubled it, right? It's 100% increase or whatever. If you want to say it that way is fine. From when to when, if that's important. Perhaps you did something in a super accelerated fashion, like within 1 week, I was able to completely transform kind of thing. So you talk about what happened, right? Reduced turnaround time, 100% within 1 week, right? The project was. And so then you want to talk about what you did. Look at it's the fifth portion. By what? By creating something, by designing and implementing something, by converting a manual process to an automated process, or whatever it may be. This is where you get to say what you did. So it's not manage the customer service team. If you increased customer satisfaction, you did something. You worked a project. You streamlined a process. You educated your customer service reps. You built a best practice methodology. You built a database that streamlined access to data kind of thing. So what exactly did you do? For whom did you do it? So I built a system for the customer service reps. That's the for whom, or for your customers, or for whoever you did it, and then any additional context that you feel is necessary. And those 7 pieces might look like a lot, but it only takes 2 lines to put all that information in, or 2.5 lines on the tall side. So that's what I'm talking about. So your bullet, just for context here, is something that's a couple of lines long that gets all that information in there. Okay, so you want to think about your top goals. You want to think about the great 8 that the employers care about. You want to think about how it relates to your function. Do you do the main thing? Do you do a prerequisite step, or do you do a do you do an ingredient? And then you want to try to put it in that format. Now, what I want to do is I'm actually going to show you a breakdown of one of these. And this is Joshua. He's an accountant, and many of you know, or some of you may not know, but throughout November, I spent 5 days and then some working with members of this program to create a new interview intervention training program. And it's all packaged and ready to go. It's full on, all turned on, all ready, no waiting. And as part of doing this, I taught for a few hours each of the sessions. Then we went into role playing, and then we did questions and answers. And in each role play, we did things like what you're about to see. This particular role play is related to creating a resume highlight and then figuring out its applicability. So I want you to get ready now and make sure you have your resume bullet in mind or on paper as we walk through this story with Joshua. It's about 17 or 18 minutes. We're going to work through this. And a little commercial announcement before we get into this. If you're getting value out of this so far, make sure you hit the thumbs up button on the send the little like button to YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to the station. All right, now I'm going to switch over to Joshua, and we'll go from here's me, and then let's get Joshua rolling. And he's an accountant, and who doesn't love accountants? Come on. Let me see if I can get this back up on my screen, and let's get Joshua in. Ooh, how are you?
Good. Yourself?
I'm doing great, man. I love this stuff. Okay, hold on. Let me pull this. Let me just pull up the bullet really quick, just so everybody's got it and they know what we're going from. Recovered $200,000 annually in freight overages through implementing a tracking system and partnering with sales to gain customer agreements. Okay, so this is the bullet. Now, the thing that's sweet, recovered $200,000. So we're going to need to understand what recovered means specifically. And then freight overages. So there was a problem. So something was amiss because it wasn't buttoned up initially, because you shouldn't have to recover money, right? I don't know that, but there's something to that in the story. And then you implemented a tracking system. So now we want to make sure we understand what's in the I'm talking about for storytelling purposes, what's in the tracking system, and then partnering with sales to gain customer agreements. It sounds to me, this is just an inference, not knowing anything other than these, 20 words, is, are you setting something up initially now or retrofitting something that exists to clarify something that is going to help you prevent you from any overages in the future? Okay, so this is what goes through my head when I read that bullet. Follow me? Do you all see the same thing, right? Okay. Now, you're going to set me straight here, but let's get to you and me, and then let's kind of chew on this. Okay. So you recovered $200 annually in freight overages and so on. Just tell me, don't try to piece it all together. Just what was going on?
When I joined the company?
No, so like this bullet, so assume for simulation purposes, you're in an interview and I'm going to ask you, Joshua, how did you do that? So you don't have to answer me how you did that. I want you to give me insight into what was happening, why it was a big deal, what you did, and then let's just get some raw material out, and then let's try to piece how you would tell the story.
So before implementing this tracking system, there was no examination of freight.
Okay.
Freight bills were simply paid without any consideration of if we were being billed correctly.
Okay.
So the first step, I identified the opportunity to begin tracking using some internal data that already existed. We started checking the freight bills we received. And then as an add-on improvement, we identified that we could break out different components of the freight, including this it's called demerge.
What was it called?
Demerge.
Demerge.
It's the use of a shipping vessel beyond the allotted time.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
by breaking that, working with the carriers, they broke out that portion of the cost for us, and we could identify where our customers were using the vessel, the shipping vessel, longer than they agreed upon time. And then that led to partnering with sales and getting the customer's agreement to bill that cost to them.
All right. How many issues did he have? Hold up numbers, hold up fingers. How many issues did you count right there? There's 3 huge ones that are costing you major money, right? So you had a process issue, right? You had a contract issue, and you had a billing issue. All those needed to be solved. The more problems you have, the better your story, right? So this is what a lot of you don't do. You don't think in those grand terms. I think you're more awesome than you think because you solve more problems than you think you solve, but that's what I hear when I just heard him talk. Right? You guys are laughing. These are the questions you need to ask yourself, like what was actually happening? And then what are those problems, right? Because he did an optimization issue, he did a contractual issue, which is similar to like a compliance issue, but it's contractual. And then he also did a financial, right? Auditing, addressed an auditing issue. Okay. So even before you start thinking about how you want to tell your stories, what the heck was going on? All right. So wait, so we got these issues. We know what the issues are. And we know that you surfaced or just were proactive enough. So this falls under self-starter stuff, right? Astute observer, attention to detail. So then you want to classify, when would I pull this story if I needed to pull a story, right? It's like, what are you dealing with, right? So you got functional problems and you got character trait, well, not problems, but illustrations. You guys understand what I'm saying, right? You get these weird behavioral interview questions like, tell me about a time when you took initiative. This is the story. Hey, how did you do that? This is the story. Tell me about a time you optimized the design. This is the story. Tell me about when you had paid attention to detail. This is the same story. These are all the same story that you would use for multiple purposes. Okay. All right. Then that's what you did. Now, an element of this is you implemented a tracking system. Tell me a little bit about the system you implemented.
At the beginning, we were receiving paper freight bills.
Okay.
Then for efficiency, we worked with the carriers to receive statements in Excel.
Okay. All right. Now, you saw me break that down for him. I want you to think about your bullet before we continue on with Joshua. I want you to think about these 3 things right now. All right. Oh man, I lost my good black marker. Hey, let me see if I can. And hold on, and behavior. Okay. I want you to think about these 3 things. The bullet you have, or any bullet that you want to put, I hope you can see this. Is it part of the grade 8? Make the association. Revenue generation, market awareness, right? Customer lead gen, acquisition, customer happiness, employee happiness, positioning for your company, cost efficiency, those kind of things. Then what was the problem or problems? Jot those down, because the problems and writing that out will also register for you when you get asked certain things in an interview. You'll know how to draw on this story, because this story can be used for several applications. And then behaviors. Did you notice when I said to him, it also talks about the behavioral traits that you have, like you're a self-starter, or you were organized, or tell me about a time when you organized something. Tell me about a time when you improved a process. Tell me about a time when you whatever. So tell me about a time when you overcame a challenge. Tell me about a time when you whatever, right? Had to interact with your customers. Whatever it might be, these 3 things, look at them right now. associate the great 8. If not, if you can't remember what those are, we can, kind of rewind this after we're done. But what are the business problems that your bullet is addressing, just in general? Because you're going to want to make sure that you highlight this in your storytelling, and I'm going to show you that in a few minutes, how to do that in his case study. And then the behavioral traits. So when I get asked those stupid behavioral interview questions, tell me about a time when you took initiative. Tell me about a time when you were so detailed, right? He was detailed. He found something, right? That it's the same story for no less than 24 questions that they could ask you, or variations thereof. You guys get this, right? This is huge. Is it part of the grade 8? Yes or no? What are the problems or problems? And then what behavioral characteristics does this bullet, this story that I'm going to tell, which ones does it coincide with? This helps you map and reduce the number of stories that you want to lean on in your interviews, and it makes it easier for you. Okay, let's keep going. So do that, and I'll see you here in a few more minutes.
So
you worked with the carriers to receive statements?
Yes.
Electronically?
Correct. Using Microsoft.
So you took a manual process that automated it with more detail.
Yes.
Wait, these words matter because these are words you want to use in your story. I took a manual process, we automated it, and I was able to get more detail, which surfaced, like you need keywords to basically hit, so that they register that they're hearing what they want to hear. That's what they want to hear, right? Okay, so you took an automated process that you made electronic, or you streamlined it or whatever, made it electronic, got more detail, so you were able to better monitor and audit, or whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
Okay. So that's what you did. That was the tracking system?
Correct.
How, just out of curiosity, not that this needs to be part of the story, but maybe it could be. Did you use a system to do this? Was this email that went into your system? How did you do, how'd you collect the data?
We took the data from the carrier and data from our ERP, put it together into a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet.
Into a spreadsheet, okay. ERP data. Those words need to be in the story, right? And so did the carrier email you a statement that then went in? Is that how it did? Okay, so it's not overly sexy, but that's okay. Because once you say ERP data, it washes away anything else that isn't as sexy. Do you guys know how that works, right? You're going to hang on to the most hefty thing I say. Even if something's really kind of just real easy over here, it's like I'm the magician and I want you to watch this when I'm doing that. You got that, right? You get it? This really matters. This is the beauty of storytelling. Okay, so ERP data needs to be in the story. So that's all going to be part of how you built it. And then what was the part with the sales team?
Using the outputs from the spreadsheet, we identified which customers were causing excess freight at unloading. Worked with the sales team then. I took that information to the sales team and gave them that list. Here's your list of customers, our customers. And this is how much they're costing us. We looked at, could we absorb that or not? And then sales went back to the customers and negotiated to change their pricing, or we implement periodic billing.
Okay. So wait a minute. The recovery of the annual overages is not related to the additional revenue you're generating as a result of renegotiated contracts.
There were two mechanisms. Some freight was prepaid, so it was built into the piece price. In that case, sales increased piece price of the product. In other instances, if the freight was a separate line item, that was billed separately.
Spoken like an accountant. I love it. Okay. I'm just teasing you. But wait, which is important, because if you surfaced opportunities to increase revenue because of inefficiencies and undetection over here, that's different than recovering money that you should have been paid anyway, right? I'm asking you, does your bullet account for the upsells?
In both cases, we accounted for it as revenue.
Okay, all right. So the 200,000 is all in.
Yes.
Okay, I love it. This is an awesome story. I mean, this has got all the ingredients of an awesome story. So now let's go back and let's work how you would say this. Okay. So you've got the context piece, right? And the context piece, as I see it, is we had this issue. Our organization had no way, as negative as you can go, had no system set up where we had any visibility to the accuracy of our freight charges, our whatever charges, our whatever. So we would just pay the freight. And as it turned out, after I audited it through extensive review, it came out that we were losing about $200,000 a year. Bang. That's the context. And that's the main goal. And I've already now foreshadowed the result, because I fixed all this. Then you're going to give them then you're going to give them the story. But before you jump into the story, you want to say, and ultimately, as a result of this, we essentially had 3 major issues. One was with the process itself. One was with the contract that wasn't clear, that covered this. And the other element was an auditing issue, an accounting issue, a finance, or however you want to say it. Okay. So you want to let them know that, the great 8 that I talk about, right? Revenue generation, market awareness, process efficiency, and so on. You've got elements of this stuff that you're addressing. These are home run things. So we had this issue where we were overpaying because we had no way to trace our freight charges. We simply paid the bills we were getting, and we had no clear understanding of what the actual freight was, right? And so there were essentially 3 issues. We had a process issue, we had a contract issue, and we had an auditing issue, right? So I did what? Give me the steps. What's the first line of the approach? So what are the number of things that you did? How many steps did you take, right? I had to what? What did you do first? Let's just review them. I had to look at the existing. Okay, I want to pause for a second. Did you see how the reason we wanted to collect the problems for the storytelling purposes? When you think about your bullet, when you got the grade 8, what were the major problems that you were facing? But not just what were the major problems, what were the major problems causing in terms of impact? So for example, that is where your story opens whenever you're addressing this in the interview, right? The resume bullet starts with, we would have altered his to increased revenue or increased revenue collected or whatever, 200,000. But what he's going to say is, because we had an operational problem, a tracking problem, a reconciliation problem, all the different problems that he had, we were essentially not collecting $200,000 in freight charges. Okay, he's already given them what the problems are, the challenge is, the result, all up front. So now he's foreshadowing what he's going to recap at the end when he tells them, so I did all these things, and I wrote my little CAAR technique that now everybody is copying from me, but mine is a CAAR, and the C is for context. So you are painting a story up front about why what you're about to say mattered, and the challenges that you addressed, overcame, and what happened as a result of that, and you're doing that all up front. And then he's going to walk them through, which I'm now going to take you through in the role playing, what the approach is, and you break the approach up into 2 phases. You tell them the steps you took, and then you go back through the steps. You give them the map of what you're going to tell them, the outline. You literally give them an outline, and then you walk them through the outline with the details filled in. And then you recap it, you bookend it with, and so when I was all done, we were able to, right, for 24 different locations, we were able to collect the 200,000 in annual charges or whatever it was. And that's the way you tell a story. That's the way you bring it from a resume bullet to an actual impactful story. So we've got a few more minutes left. Meaning in the role play, we're gonna show you how we did that. Okay, but I want you to recognize why you need to have those problems listed out. All right, let's roll back. Existing data to see what the actual problem was, right? Because you went back and you said I had to look at, you said I used existing data, which was the paper bills or whatever it was. So first thing I had to do was I had to go into the detail to try to look for what was actually happening. So there was a researching component. What was the second thing you did?
Obtained electronic data from the carriers.
Okay. And then the third thing that you did?
Piece together the electronic data from the carriers with ERP data to streamline our check.
You built an automation.
Built an automation.
Built an automation. All right. And then the third thing you did, or fourth thing you did?
Worked with sales department internally, and that leads, I guess, to the fifth.
Took the data, that took the new information to the people who could do something with it, right? That's the fourth element. And the fifth element was worked with the sales teams to set up the right contract or the right measurements to work with their customers to ensure accuracy or whatever. So you got 4 or 5 steps. So you want to say that. So to solve this, I basically took 4 steps. The first thing that I had to do is I had to get a handle on how big the problem was. So I had to go in and look at the existing bills we had and so on and so forth. The second thing I needed to do was I had to go back to all of our customers and get the breakdown of whatever that was. The third thing that I did was I made an automation of what was a paper-based process. I automated it so that I could take the customer's data, match it with our ERP data, so I could figure out exactly whatever the problem, right? Whatever the overage was. The next thing that I did was then I got with the salespeople to make sure that they fully understood the impact to their customers, so we could do a plan of action, or we could address the issue with them to determine what needed to change in the contract to ensure we were being paid appropriately. Now, if you want to soup your story up, you don't just talk about the 200,000. How many customers was this?
It's about 6.
6 customers, then you don't say that. The 200 is more, right? So it's not as complicated, and so I wouldn't give that number away, right?
Although I could embellish it, because even though it was 6 customers, each one of those had multiple plants.
Give me that number.
So let's say about 24 plants.
Right. This is 24 separate plants where there is freight, blah, blah, this and that, right? So you can remember numbers. We talked about storytelling, refresh your memory. One of the things about making you believable is the precision you provide and the numbers you use in your story, right? So when you talk about 200,000, their eye is going to be on that. When you talk about the sales reps, I don't know if that's 6 sales reps, so you might not say that. Is it right? Is it 1 rep, or is it two reps that handle all 6 companies? But say, look, this is coming from 24 different locations or 24 different plants. However, it was not just the amount; it was the number of these that we had to review and so on. So the first thing you want to do after you give the context and talk about the 3 major business problems that you addressed, is you talk about, okay, so I researched, I needed to gather, go back to the customers, obtain the billing information so that I had all the accurate data broken down as I needed it. Then I built an automation to take the data they were sending to me that was parsed more effectively now, combine it with the ERP data so that I had an automation where I could look at what actually was happening. So I had a clear view of what the accounting should be and what the financial impact to our company was. Then I took that data and I got with the salespeople so that they were clear on what each one of their customers' impact was, so that we could set up the appropriate contract terms to make sure we were being paid appropriately. That's the way the story goes. 3 minutes, right? And as it turned out, this amounts to 200,000 a year, year over year. Right? Something like that. But that's the way you would piece that story together.
Thank you. Would it add
Hey,
to the
you got
story?
questions. Go ahead.
Would it add to the story if then I mentioned that I standardized and documented the process and delegated that to my team?
Best practices, always wrap it up. And so to ensure, once I got all this fixed, I documented everything to make sure that it went into big binder, and then I threw it at somebody who, who's going to deal with it. Right. Yes. So this, and then the sixth thing that I did was, right, want to make sure that this is the ongoing process. And then I educated the team so that that I could move on to kick butt on some other project. Right. That is always important. I love it. I love that story. Who likes this breakdown? Right? Is this helpful to, like, when you get, like, so think about that, right? What's going on? Right? Where did I start? There was nothing, no visibility, no system, no process, no nothing. And we had design issues, we had process issues, we had contract issues, we had financial issues. And so everything that you do, even if it takes you one day to do it, systematize it in steps, because when you tell the story, you just tell the steps. Some steps might take you 3 minutes to accomplish. Others might take you 30 days, or, like in Rui's case, 3 years for his learning and development system. So just reverse engineer. Everything I give you is reverse engineered from something I had to deal with, right? Or somebody had to deal with that I collected. So Joshua, that's a great story. I love that one. Can we give him a hand? Beautiful, buddy. Oh, that's a great story. That really is a great story. So I want to drive one more point home about the storytelling, because I think it's another bonus tip, and I said this in the case study. And I've talked in other videos about my interview storytelling approach that I've been teaching this for years. But I call it context. Those are the problems, the challenges, and all the stuff up front. Then there's the approach part. You saw me break down his approach, and then all he did was have to recap that it was $200,000, which covered 24 plants and so on. Every single thing that you do when you tell the approach part of your story, think about the story as you would want to tell it, and always make a number of steps. Reverse engineer every single thing you've ever done, and it's 5 steps, 3 steps, 7 steps, whatever it is, and you tell the interviewer. So I did 5. There were 5 steps I needed to take. Actually, there were 6 in his, because we added the best practices. And you tell him, I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what I'm going to tell you. That's the frame of the story. And then you fill in the story and you go through it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the reason this matters for you to reverse engineer it is it speaks to your organizational skills. It speaks to your communication skills. It says, I have a playbook. When you hire me, I know how to do these things, and I already come with a process. And companies pay more for processes than they do for point solutions, right? You want the whole framework. So that's another little bonus tip that you want to think about. If you're interested in learning more about all these storytelling techniques, all the role plays we did, like with Joshua and the others, it's all in the interview intervention training program. Before I get to the questions, though, I want to recap this with a simple little way of remembering the concepts that I taught you today. This is it. What are my top 3 goals? Think in terms of the great 8 and break down that bullet with the savvy 7 points that go in the resume bullet. That's not just the resume highlight bullets. It's any of the resume bullets. Okay? And if you do that, I guarantee offers are coming. So, I'm tight. It's 58 minutes. I said I'd get this done in 60. If you enjoyed this, make sure to click the like button for YouTube. It really does help. Share this with your friends. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you are here with me live, we're going to the Q&A. And if you're watching this on the recording, I'll see you next week. So hope you enjoyed that. Really a lot of fun. All right, take care.